Hey, Wilna here, and welcome to the first of the 4 videos exclusive to this little art journaling series 1 class. This is the page that I'm going to show you how to make. And first of all, I'm going to start off by priming my page with heavy gesso. So I have a normal gesso at home, but I love the heavy gesso. I think the reason why I like it so much is just because it's so dense and so almost like a paste that you can actually use a little bit less of it to get the same desired effect. The other thing is that you only need like a teaspoon. I will focus it in a second. There you go. You just need a teaspoon of gesso, and especially if your books are probably not heavyweight mixed media paper, then the heavy gesso is even better to use than normal gesso. So the books I'm using is Strathmore Mixed Media Art Journals, and I absolutely love them. You can find a link in the related products below. Okay, so once your page is dry, and it dries super quick, then we're going to go ahead and add some washes. So I'm spraying my paper page with water, and then I'm going to paint on it just roughly with acrylic paint, and I'm going to wet my brush and wet it actually quite a bit, and try and use as much watery acrylic as possible. So you really want this transparent thing happening. I'm using a lime green, a blue, and a turquoise, and you can see how rough I'm painting it. And then look how lovely this watery acrylic paint is, just the texture that's happening on your page. So remember, the one thing about art journaling is the process is way more important than the end product, even though for me personally, and it's different for every single mixed media artist, for me personally, I want a page at the end that is aesthetically nice to look at, that I can feel a relief and a release on. So that to me is important. But how I get there is more important than the actual page. So just remember that, I'm a big fan of just going with the flow, letting the page dictate where you're going. But I'm also a big believer in starting points. So, how you start a page is always to me important, because that white can be so intimidating. And just to do something on the page and work it from there, it's almost like, you just have to decide where you're driving before you can actually go on a journey, and you just have to start driving, and then you can choose which roads to take. If you get to a fork in the road, you can pick which way to go. So I added a tiny bit of black. It's actually Payne's Gray is the name of the acrylic paint, and I love the heavy body acrylics, and the reason why I love them is because they are heavy bodied. So they are nice and thick, not watery to paint with. But if you want to water them down, you can do that as well. And I'm just drying the paint with my embossing tool. Okay, once this is completely dry, I'm going to go ahead and for these 4 videos and pages, we're going to be doing printmaking on wax paper. So I don't have parchment paper or wax paper. I have parchment paper. There's a little bit of a difference. Wax paper is a waxy side on one side, and I think maybe that will work a little better. But I just have parchment paper, which is basically the same on both sides. So it's just what I had in my kitchen. And I'm using a little bit of hooker's green, and I mixed in a tiny bit of a darker green in there, and or even black, I can't remember. And now I'm just painting over the stencil with a dry brush, and it's important that your your brush is as dry as possible. Otherwise, the paint is going to seep in behind the stencil, and you don't want that. And now I'm going to print on it on the page. So I'm just going to lay it down and just, there you go. And this is just a technique you can use. So the idea is here is to keep the printed wax paper or parchment paper. Just put it somewhere because you can tear it up into strips for another page. You can actually make a second print from that wax paper, and it won't be as dense as the first one, but it can work really nice. And now I'm going to use my the illustrations that I have for you in this little mini workshop. I print and cut them with my Silhouette Cameo, and I used a 9x12 paper to do that on, because I have a wide format printer that can print papers 9 inches wide. I use the Strathmore Mixed Media. It's a paper pad, and it's nice. The paper is so nice and thick, and I used so mine is a little bigger. If you only have a printer that prints letter paper, then yours might be a little smaller, but that's okay. Again, I love using illustrations on my pages as my focal point, and that gives me almost like a destination for this art journal journey that I go on, and everything works around that. The reason why I cut my illustration is because if you paste and fold it, your books are going to have trouble opening, and eventually the illustration will come away from the page. So I just like cutting it exactly where the split is, and you know what, your eye finishes it automatically. So that's pretty awesome to know. The human eye is pretty amazing. You can see that the Mod Podge that I used to dry it with, or paste it with, dry clear, so it's lovely. And now I'm using just a dark green. I absolutely love Liquitex inks, and if you follow me on my art journals journeys, then you know this. And I'm just going to do my thinking here is that this whole page is, the tonality is the same, and I want to create a little bit of contrast or drama on the page, and that's why I'm going to go darker on one side and lighter on one side. And you will see this is like a reoccurring theme throughout the 4 journals, is that there will be places on the page where it's much darker than this one is, just from the side, So this is black ink, and and you can see that I made it run first just to dictate a path for me, and now I'm painting around that a little bit. And I'm a little cautious when I'm painting the black ink because I don't want to just spread it over the whole page. I'm wetting my brush there a little bit, and I sort of I'm blending it into the green. You can use a cloth and clean your illustration up if you want to, because the Mod Podge is a sealant, so it really helps with protecting the illustration against paint and paint splatters. Okay, so you can already see the drama happening there, and I'm liking the way that this page is going, even though with every single art journal page I get to a point where I think it's going to be a total disaster. And I think if you feel that way about your own page, that you are more or less on the right road. I'm mixing in light blue paint with white, and you can see I have a little palette knife there. Just going to add a tiny bit of green, even though in hindsight I shouldn't have done that, because it was too green for me. The light blue and white would have been great. And now I'm going to add it just with the palette knife, and I'm going to use the thick paint there. This will only work if your paint is dry that's on the page already, so just be mindful of that and just spread it here and there. You don't have to do it all over the page, but just here and there. And I love this look of the palette knife. It's almost like you're printing on the page. And so I love the texture that it creates. And you can see okay, this is hard. And hard in a way, hard to know when to stop. So I just decided, okay, this is enough. Let it dry. And I think at this stage, I went to a yoga class because all four of the journals, because I don't work in one. Oh, and I'm adding red. And you'll see I'm going to use that palette knife in moving it around a little bit more. I work in 4 journals at once. So because while one is drying, and you can see I'm scraping into that red, just mark making. That's actually the only thing that art journals is all about, is mark making in the right places. So I'm just, it makes really nice marks, especially this small little tool. And now I'm going to leave it. I think I'm going to leave it now and dry. So I work in 4 books at once, because while this one is drying, I can carry on to the next book. Usually I have really loud music going on in my scrapbook room. And my table is next to a window. So that's why you can see the when the clouds go in front of the sun, then it gets a little cloudier in my room. It's a little bit annoying, but it still gives me pretty good light to work, with. Okay, so sometimes it's just necessary to take a break. Okay, so like I said, the green was a little too green for me, and I wanted something fresher, and that's why I went with the white paint. But everything on this page is very dry. It's I think the next day now, and I'm watering down the white acrylic paint, and I'm using a flat brush, and I'm just painting a little bit of white back on the page. And this is basically where I'm going to be writing. So to me it was kind of important just to create some space to write my journaling, because in the end the art journaling part of the art is important to me as well. So be mindful when you make your journals to leave some untextured space and white space for you to write on. And it doesn't necessarily have to be white. It can be just any light color. So you can see I'm painting in with the little bit of pink there. And now I'm just using white with a drop of yellow. And I'm going to use this to draw on. So now we're getting to my favorite part of the art journaling happening here, and I call it the embroidering part. And this is just where you really it's a little too yellow, that's why I'm making a new. And don't worry, my palette is actually dry, so because it's the next day, right? I probably could have used a new page, or a new paper plate. But when the paint is dry, acrylic paint dries like plastic almost. And the nice thing about it as well is that it doesn't, when you add water to it, it doesn't give off. So acrylic paint is amazing. Okay, so now you can see the stencil that I printed on my page. I'm using it as a guide, and I'm just painting these little leaves on there. And I'm going to use it as a guide, but I'm also going to go my own route a little bit with it. And this is the nice thing about just being a doodler. I'm an absolute doodler. I'm always doodling in my Bible, when I'm in church, when I'm watching a TV show. I'm always a piece of paper and just a doodle. And this is something that honestly, it comes through practice. You just have to do it and do it and do it, and then eventually it will come very naturally and easily for you. But don't be fooled. I still have moments where I'm like, what do I doodle now? So I don't. I'm often curious to know if it ever gets easier, because it feels like I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again. But when I look through my art journals, not one page looks the same, So that's very, very interesting. Even though it feels like I'm doing the same thing over and over again, they don't look the same at all. So this brush is my favorite brush. And I was actually wondering, because you can see how lovely it writes. I have absolutely no idea where I found it. I just remember that one day I was doing some illustrations for iHeart Studio, and I wanted to write something, and I found this brush, and it just worked. Like, the tip of the brush is just a perfect width, and the way it shapes, I have absolutely no idea where I found it. And you can even see the little stem of the brush. The paint is coming off, so I can't even read what's written on there, but I'm guarding it with my life. It has a very special place in a drawer where, So the words that I'm writing there, sweep me up in your arms again, and my soul will dance on the wings of forever. I think that's on the... I think this is what it says. I can't read. I don't have my glasses on. I'm sorry. But what happens is I'm probably... I was listening to a song, and the words came up, so I just decided to journal it. And that's what I did with all 4 pages. I absolutely love Christian music, so, for me it's very inspirational. And now I'm just doodling. Honestly, this is just embroidering, and one thing that I absolutely love is when I add paint, like I'm doing there, but then there's certain parts that shines through underneath it. I shouldn't have painted over that, but anyway. And here you can see I'm almost done with this page. I'm very happy with it. It feels artistic, but it feels sort of contained as well. And I'm just going to paint in, that's right, a few yellow leaves. And the pop of yellow, it just repeats that yellow flower in the middle, which I'm just going to touch up there a little. And you can paint with acrylic paints over the illustrations and just enhance them in a way. And now I'm just absolutely loving this page. And you can see the video does wash it out a little bit, the colors. And I actually took this picture with my iPhone. Oh no, I didn't. I did not. Sorry. It's not my iPhone. It's my Nikon. And you can see how vivid the colors are here. And this is more true to how it looks in real life. So yeah, the video does wash out the colors a little bit. But yeah, thank you for watching this first video. I really talked a lot. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the series as much as I enjoyed making them. Okay, see you in the next one. Bye.